What's going on? This is your boy Chinju Banga. Once again, it's another episode coming from African Tribalist Confederation. I'm here today with Hendo Y and Kenny Y, and today we're gonna talk about culture, language, and African spirituality, and that we're all are not one bubble. We might use the word African, but we all come from different ethnic backgrounds. That it is different. So we're gonna get into that. Let's touch on African spirituality first. Let's start with that. So, Hindowa, what's your when it comes to African spirituality here in the diaspora, you know, what's the correct way we should be practicing it?
Well, that's it's not really, in my opinion, it's not defined by us. You know what I'm saying? We have living cultures that we have to go back to understand, why we do certain things, and that being said, we go back to our people to learn that they have the criteria, they have the background to give us. You know what I'm saying? So when we travel back home, we pick up our language, we pick up our customs and our cultures. Here in America, we kind of like we take things and we mix things up, and we're not actually practicing the traditional ways. You know what I'm saying? We picking this, we picking that, and we calling it African spiritual. And it's a wide range. You know what I'm saying, of different spiritual systems. You know what I mean, when we're talking African spirituality. You know what I mean? It's not just one system. It's not one people we're talking about.
I can dig it. So, Kenny Y, I'm gonna bounce over to you. Do you feel like within a household of some test takers, let's say you're Mende and your wife is Takar or something, do you think when it comes to African spirituality, building a shrine at home, that you guys should mix them or practice them separately within the same house, or just pick one to practice to rule over the house? You on mute?
Yeah, I don't know. I learned to respect people's you know, beliefs and practices because we have to understand, especially us here, the reality of it as us being stripped from our original culture, our original language, and stuff like that. That people are gonna pick up things that is comfortable for them at this point. That's what we do. We picking up, these customs and these religions. We're making up religions. We're making up languages because we've been so detached. But in a household, you know, um, that's the beauty of it. She if she was Takar, she would be bringing her culture to me, and that's even without even knowing nothing. She brings her culture, her family from down south. You know what I'm saying? So she's bringing her, way of practices, her way of her doing things, how she was raised into the household. So why should I be like, oh, because I come from a Mende background and stuff, you should just adopt my, you know what I mean? Now let's mesh it. This is how kingdoms was, you know, um, rose through the mixing of tribes. We just gotta, I wouldn't try
Okay.
to say like I'm gonna force her to be Mende. Like that's not. I don't know. I don't think that. I personally wouldn't do that.
Well,
I
Hindowa, it
want to get to know them.
sounds kind of opposite. Hindowa, what is your ideal? And mind you, to both of you guys, we are talking about only people that are interested in preserving the culture like we are. So I don't care what terminology you use, a test taker, a tribalist, or whatever. Uh, Hindowa, on what Kennywa just said, what do you think that's the correct way? Because like I get where he's coming from. I totally agree with that, especially when you under one roof. But at the same time, we are separate people. So do we mix these African spiritual systems together at home? Do we keep them separate? What contract do we make with each other with our spouse when it comes to that?
I mean, every people have their own spiritual systems that, like I said, are still intact. You know what I'm saying? So let's say Kinawa's wife is Takar or whatever, and he's Mende. He would have his practices, so would she. And that's the beauty of it. You know what I mean? In certain in certain respects, yeah, they can mesh. But in certain respects, they can't mesh. You know what I'm saying? Because you have two different languages, two different customs, two different, that has to be respected. You know what I mean? So you can have a shrine where you're speaking to your Takar ancestors and you're speaking to them in Takar. You're not speaking to your Takar ancestors in English or in Mende. You're speaking to them in the language that you know what I mean? That's what you're trying to learn as you go along. You know what I mean? All of these customs have a distinct way that you call your ancestors, a distinct way that you do when you venerate them. You know what I mean? So
Facts.
there's certain things that you just can't mesh. You know what I mean? That has to be respected. So in that, you know what I mean? I would say now, if you are not in a household and you come up with a tradition, that's different than trying to take something that doesn't belong and mesh it all together and make it your own. Now we could do that as a people who are migrating or something like that, or you know what I mean. But you know, at this point where we have all of this craziness going on, and I think it's more important for us to go back to our individual selves. You know what I mean, as individuals, and go back into our genetic coding. Our genetic ethnic groups, and learn our systems, learn our culture, learn our history, be proud of that. You know what I mean? Just like, the Europeans, they make movies and they have all this stuff that surrounds their culture to make them feel proud of it. We have to do the same things. And it all starts with learning these spiritual systems, learning our languages, learning the customs and the culture that comes, the history that comes with it.
Exactly. Now, I agree with you, Kenny. Well, I'm gonna get right at you because I want to ask you a question. I agree with you, and I'm in the middle because I get exactly what Kenny was coming from, respecting other people's beliefs, and a family under one household, they can come up with their own traditions and mix a shrine together. A Mende shrine with a T-car shrine or whatever the case may be. It's kind of hard to tell people they can't do that, but I get your angle coming from. We are all separate people, and that's the whole purpose of doing this is to get back to our heritage because our heritage at one point in time was not mixed.